Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about sitting. Sitting is a very important factor when it comes to low back pain, neck pain, leg pain, and arm pain. So it's important that we get it just right. Now let's talk about why sitting can be problematic for your neck or back. There's a correct sitting posture and there's an incorrect sitting posture. If I sit like this people would recognize this as a slouched sitting posture. I've actually lost the curve in my lower back. What do I mean by that? Your lower back has a natural curve to it. Now this surface is the back of the spine, okay? So the natural curve is like this. That's called a lordotic curve. There's a concave curve in the lower back right here, okay? And that's healthy. That's how your spine is when you're standing up. So your spine should have basically the same configuration when you're standing as when you're sitting, okay? So if I lose that curve and I go into this slouch position, what happens there is under the weight of gravity and due to this slouch position, the pressure in the intervertebral disc here is much greater. And if I do that for a long period of time, hours upon hours and day upon day, I'm going to create a very gradual and slow injury to my intervertebral disc. Okay? So that's how it affects the lower back. But it can also affect the neck too, and there's a chain reaction that goes on, so that if I slouch in my lower back, my head will automatically go forward a little bit. That's called a forward head posture, and I'll lose the curve in my lower neck and put it into my upper neck. All the curve will go into my upper neck, so I'll end up sitting like this. And that's a major cause of neck pain and headaches. So when I sit up straight through my lower back, my head automatically translates backward closer to my shoulders, and that's much better for my neck. I now have the curve in my neck. That's correct. So if I slouch through my lower back, my head goes forward. If I arch my lower back and get the correct curve in my lower back, I automatically have the correct curve in my neck. So that's how both areas of your spine work together when you sit. Okay. So that's correct sitting and incorrect sitting. Now, when you're treating with me, if you're having quite a bit of problem, it may be necessary that we actually do a lot less sitting, period, for a while. And we'll talk about that in your treatment plan. Sometimes even sitting in the best position, if you're doing it all the time, it's just going to be a constant aggravation to your neck and your back. So we need to eliminate some of that. You might be standing up more or walking more and sitting less. And there's ways to work that out with standing desks, etc. Okay. One of the factors that plays into the correct and incorrect sitting posture is the length of the muscles back here called your hamstring muscles. If these muscles are tight, what it will do is it'll pull your back this way, automatically taking the curve out of your lower back and making it much more difficult for you to sit up straight. Therefore, we need to stretch the hamstrings. That's another thing that we do as well. Okay, so now we've talked about correct and incorrect sitting postures. Let's talk about chairs and foam and things that we can use to sit correctly. The height of the chair is very important. When you sit in a chair, you should be able to have your buttocks a little higher than the level of your knee. Okay, right now in this chair, my buttocks is about the same level of my knee, so it's not too bad. But once the buttocks drops down lower, below the height of the knee, and the knee comes up like this, say for example, when you're sitting in your car, that puts you in that rounded position, and it's very hard on your lower back. That's why people have a lot of problems sitting in cars with low seats. Okay, so when you're sitting in a car, you really need to try to bring the seat up a little bit or get a lot of support behind your back. School chairs, our kids are sitting in these school chairs that are pretty awful for them. Those plastic chairs that are rounded out so that their backs, if they sit to the back of the chair, they automatically sit like this. It's just pretty awful. And that's while their spines are growing, as a matter of fact, so it's really deforming the natural growth of their spine and not a good thing at all. I don't really know what we can do about that. These chairs have been around forever, even since I've been in grade school, so it's just not a good thing. Couches are just really not too good for your lower back because the surface is too compliant and your buttocks slouches down. Consequently, your knees end up above your buttocks and you're slouching again. So couches are just not that great for the lower back. Couple other things. When you sit with your knees straight out, whether that's in a bed at night while you're watching TV, or whether you're sitting on the floor, even with your legs crossed is a little bit easier, but when your knees are straightened out, that puts tension on your hamstring muscles and pulls you automatically into this slouch position. So people who sit on the floor will really be uncomfortable in their lower back. You got to get up into a chair, get your knees bent. And with all these sitting activities, there's a dose-response relationship. So the longer you sit in that bad position, the more effect it's going to have on your lower back. So you need to get out of that position and stay out of it for quite a while to let your back to start to heal, let it heal. Okay, now let's talk about, we talked about some bad sitting postures, chairs that don't work well. Let's talk about what you could do to sit well. Okay, you can sit in a fairly standard kitchen chair or an office chair like this. Notice that the seat part of the chair is not too tilted. Ideally, I want it flat. This one tilts back just slightly, but it should be flat. Okay, if it tilts back like this, you're going to slouch back into the chair. Okay, so keep it flat. Now you can sit on forward like this, and I'm just using my back muscles to sit up like this, but I'm really used to doing it, and this feels very comfortable to me. I could sit against the back of the chair. Okay, if I sit against the back of the chair, I'd want to get something like this between my back and the back of the chair. So I put this piece of foam in here like this and get it in there real tight in my lower back and sit right against it so that it pushes my back forward, and that feels pretty good. So that's one option you can do if you want to allow the foam or the chair to do the work for you and support you. You can sit that way, or you can sit forward like this. Okay? So those are about the only two ways that I can recommend that somebody sit safely. So I apologize if because I get a lot of resistance on this, because people are used to sitting in couches, sitting on the floor, and all these other ways. But if you want your back to be healthy, you've got to make the sacrifice and sit in good chairs. And after a while, it gets to be much more enjoyable anyway, because you feel good. So let's talk about a couple of different exercises you can perform while you're sitting in a good chair like this to make your back better. Okay, one thing is called a pelvic tilt. And this is illustrated in another video that I have separately. It's called a seated pelvic tilt. And what you're going to do in this exercise is you're going to just arch your back all the way forward and then slouch all the way back down. Forward and back down. Now we're going into that slouch position, but only for a fraction of a second, then we're right back up to the arch position. And the reason I have people do this, and we do it continuously for 1 minute, is because people just don't have an awareness of where their lower back really is. So if they're sitting slouched and I come behind them and I say, okay, I want you to sit up straight, they probably will go from this position to about this position right here. Okay, that's a little bit of an improvement, but it's not where they need to be. You need to be all the way forward, so your lower back's in a good lordosis. So the way to get there is to experience the range and to know where you are. This is very important for lifting as well. But you want to slouch down, you want to arch up, slouch down, arch up, slouch down, arch up. Do it vigorously like that for 1 minute straight. That's called a seated pelvic tilt, and it'll get you used to where the correct curve is in your back. So that's one thing. The second thing is I'd like you to start today experiencing using your muscles to sit for just 5 minutes at a time. So I want you to practice sitting like this with your back completely arched for just 5 minutes out of every hour that you sit in a chair like this, a good chair. Okay? Now, why is it 5 minutes? Well, if I tell you I want you to sit at work and all day long, I want you to sit with your back arched like this, there's no way you'd be able to do that. You'd get very frustrated and you wouldn't be able to concentrate on your work. But if you can start out with just 5 minutes of sitting perfectly straight and forcing yourself in that position while you do your work, you'll get used to doing it. And what I've noticed is that I teach this to people, that after a while they start to sit in that position and do their work, and all of a sudden they don't even notice that they're actually sitting in that position all the time. This becomes very comfortable. It's the way your spine is supposed to be. This is not natural, folks. This is. Besides what you may be feeling or experiencing on a regular basis, this is the natural position of your spine sitting. So try it for just 5 minutes. So those two things were pelvic tilts for 1 minute vigorously, and sitting for 5 minutes out of every hour while you're doing your work to get used to using your muscles. And in review, we did talk about sitting correctly. We said sitting on the edge of the chair with a chair about this, the height so that the buttocks is above the knee. That's important. You can sit forward like this, or you can sit back in the chair with support behind your back so that your back stays arched. So I think that's all I want to cover today about sitting. I know that was quite a long video, but this is a very important topic. If you have any questions, please enter your question below, and I'll be sure to get back to you and answer it for you. If you like the video, please give me a like, and I look forward to seeing you on other videos coming up in the future about these ergonomic types of subjects. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Thanks very much for watching.